This is the Concealed Carry Podcast, Season 7, Episode 10. And welcome to the Concealed Carry Podcast, part of the concealedcarry.com network, brought to you by Silencer Shop. Today is Wednesday, October 5th, 2022, as of the recording of this episode. And I am your host, Riley Bowman, joined by our producer and co host and all things marvelous and wonderful, Matthew Marister,
What's up, man?
including a great, beard and haircut and everything.
And I started growing a beard as a kid. I'm a hairy dude, and it pays off in one way at least, right?
We're glad to be back with you all for a second episode today. We're trying to get back into regular routine of our 2 episodes a week, and it's good to be, both here and able to do that. It's been so long, that we've had everybody gone or away someplace or sick. I was sick last week, actually. We were actually planning on doing an episode last week, but didn't happen because I was sick, and then Matthew and Jacob couldn't get it pulled off. So it just is what it is. But here we are. Today, we're actually going to share with you takeaways and lessons learned from the 2022 Guardian Conference, which was just recently wrapped up in Oklahoma City a couple of weeks ago. And looking forward to sharing with you some of the experiences we had there, and like I said, takeaways and lessons learned as we look forward to next year's event, which is already scheduled and is already taking signups. We got that opened up and ready for registrations a lot more quickly than we did with last year's event. So, really excited about that. Today's episode sponsored and brought to you by CCW Safe, who is the presenting sponsor of the Guardian Conference. We anticipate having them back with us again next year. And CCW Safe, of course, has been working with us for some time now, also as a podcast sponsor. And in fact, podcast listeners save 10% by using the code CC Podcast when checking out with a new CCW Safe membership. And if you're a Guardian Nation member, not only do you save big on the Guardian Conference attendance ticket price, but you also save 20% off of CCW Safe membership by being a member of Guardian Nation. You can learn more at guardiannation.com. And also, today's episode sponsored by Gunfighter Gun Oil, also a sponsor of the 2022 Guardian Conference. And the owner of Gunfighter Gun Oil, Mickey Shook, was also one of our featured instructors this year at the conference as well. And so we were glad to have him there instructing, and also glad to have Gunfighter Gun Oil as a sponsor as well. And yeah, there you go. Sponsors. Oh, I should mention, I don't think I mentioned the website, ccwsafe.com. That's where you can go to sign up for CCW Safe. And gunfighteroil.com is Gunfighter Gun Oil's website. Let's get into today's topic, Matthew. We're jumping right in this, moving right along. But a couple weeks ago, we wrapped up the 2022 Guardian Conference. It was our second annual event. Last year was our very first one, meaning 2021, and it was they were both successful events, but they were both very different. Partly because we were missing a critical piece, and that was Jacob Paulson, our president of our company, and he was obviously a huge part of planning both events. But about 4 weeks before last year's event, he came down sick, very, very sick. In fact, some of you may remember an episode where he and I talked about that after he kind of got back to being, in more or less full health. Even I think when we did the episode with him talking about that, he was not quite 100%, but was, most of the way there. But we are so glad to have Jacob with us at the 2022 conference because, well, he's my right-hand man, and he is an administrative wizard. And it left me more or less focused on making sure our instructors were taken care of, which also Matthew was a big help with too, but also just focusing on teaching my classes at the event. So that was nice to have a little bit of weight off my shoulders. But anyway, it's been a couple of weeks now. We've had an opportunity to think back and reflect and I guess get a sense of kind of how it went and our takeaways and lessons learned, as I mentioned, and that's what we're here to talk about today. So, where should we go with this, Matthew?
Well, there. I mean, you kind of hit on the fact that this year was different than last year, and it was more. I mean, obviously, the personnel with Jacob and his dad and all that coming out, and Sam, our customer service guy, was out there. He wasn't there last year. Also JP, he was somebody was out there this year, and so that obviously made we had more hands on deck to be able to kind of smooth out those back of the behind the scenes things that the students or the attendees shouldn't have to worry about, right? Getting food and scheduling and all that. But I thought it was um, I, I really thought that it was different from the standpoint that I believe we had. Now I don't know the statistics, or this is just a perception, but I believe we had more diversity of classes, as far as you know, live shooting, uh, lecture classes. We had legal classes, but we also had like post shooting incident type thing, dealing with police. We had some less lethal classes. We had the low light stuff, but I just felt it was, a really good variety. Oh, and all of Todd Fosse's, combatives classes. He had a vehicle class that we didn't have last year. So I thought like if you attended this year, you had a wide array of classes and different disciplines that you could have taken, that would have kept you, very engaged, and you wouldn't have had to take, similar classes at all. I thought it was really well spread out.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we did have an excellent lineup of classes. I mean, plenty to choose from. And I think feedback from attendees has been really positive about the classes available. There's always some folks that are like, "Hey, I wish there was this or that, or could have done, this other thing." In fact, the thing that we had the most requests for after last year's event was students that wanted a red dot specific class, and so which is not that I was intentionally avoiding that, but I'll say this, that aiming a gun, whether you're using a red dot or iron sights, it's all just aiming. And the difference is in the way you get the visual confirmation of where the gun is aimed. A lot of the stuff that I teach, like the class I teach, pistol intelligence, is what it's referred to, my curriculum, uh, is not a red dot specific curriculum. It's not an iron sight specific curriculum. It's a curriculum that helps people see and understand how to see and use their vision more effectively to visually process information more effectively. And that's true whether using red dots or iron sights. And that was kind of my response last year when people were like, "Hey, I wanted something, about red dots." And I'd be like, "Hey, look, I'll teach you how to use your vision better, period, by coming to my class." Okay. But so many people wanted a red dot class. So we brought in AJ Zito, who is a fabulous instructor and did a red dot, I think he called it red dot or dot performance or something like that. And it was a great class, and everyone had a great time that went through that 4-hour block with him over the course of the weekend. I think he did, I don't know, four blocks thereabouts, something like that. And excellent feedback, of course, from him, which I would expect no less. He's a world class instructor for sure. This year, I think the thing that I've been hearing from attendees that wish that there was something that covered this topic that we did have last year, was something specific to do with AIWB, or appendix inside waistband carry, and specifically related to the draw, which I understand. Last year. And let me be clear about something. Our vision for the conference is some different, some the same each year from year to year to year. By that, I mean, in terms of some of the class offerings and also the instructor lineup, every year there's going to be a little bit of churn. because we want to keep it fresh and new and different, and but also have still some of the solid, kind of staples, uh, that you can kind of count on from year to year as well. So last year we had Spencer Keepers, one of our instructors there. He's a great instructor, and he did a AIWB specific class. I think only one block, and it was very, very popular and also in pretty high demand. But there was only the one block that he was able to fit it into the schedule. And a lot of people, looking at survey feedback from attendees this year, I wish there was something about AIWB. So, that's one of those things. You go from year to year to year, and I kind of thought of that a little bit. I think in the months leading up to the event, thinking, yeah, maybe we should have something that's focused around that a little bit, or even just a class that's focused around draw. Um, but we didn't have anything quite that focused this year, at least on that particular topic. So we did have the red dot class, which again was very popular. And I'd like to think that AJ will be back next year. Haven't solidified any plans that way. We got to make sure, of course, he's available and whatnot. But ultimately, we look at the whole lineup, and we look at what are some other priorities or some other things we want to make sure we can offer at the conference in the coming years. Because again, we want to keep some the same, some different, to keep it fresh and keep a nice healthy rotation in classes and also instructors. So I just want to make sure I threw that out there. But things that went really well, the red dot class. Things that maybe I kind of wish now we'd considered a little bit more, having an AIWB class or appendix carry and appendix draw class. So I think I would anticipate there might be something like that on the schedule next year. And there's certainly a number of people I think that are qualified to teach that, and maybe we'll see Spencer back. I don't know on that one way or another yet, but that's always a possibility as well.
Yeah. And that kind of, if you're listening, and even if you don't, intend on going next year, and you have ideas of classes that you think that would be good, either entry level, mid, or higher level, like you could email us, and especially if you plan on going. And I'll put this out there, if you're trying to figure out, and I suspect that most of the listeners have some sort of allocation that they allocate towards training yearly, or whatever you can afford, right? And if you're trying to figure out what class you want to go to this year, or for next year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, well, I want to go to this and train with this guy, and I want to do well. Ideally, you could probably do them both, and get other training from other instructors at the conference. And that's what makes this conference so great, is that if you wanted to go and take the blocks of training with these instructors, you'd have to travel different places and get hotels, and this is one location where you go from one instructor to another. You have time, you're interacting with others, a wide variety of skill levels, in different people of all across the country. And so if that's something that's on your radar, and I would highly recommend you can email us, at the podcast or the support guys, and say, hey, like, I'm looking to attend some training. I'd love to see XYZ class, and maybe we can get it in there. And you come out and you get that, and you train with your favorite guy and somebody that you haven't you've always wanted to, or I think what a lot of people probably didn't go there saying, I really want to get a post-incident class. What do I do after a shooting? But Gary Eastridge and Rob Heiss' class, it was great. It was super practical, and they went into a little bit about how a shooting, if you're involved in a shooting, how that might be investigated. They talked about different how to interact with police, things to say, things not to say, obviously that. But it was a fantastic lecture, And I don't think that that probably would have been on a lot of people's radar, but everybody I talked
Mm.
to that left that class was like extremely happy with the class, and walked away with, you know, uh, you know, feeling a lot more confident about, well, what do I do after the case? You know, after the fact, we're talking about how to squeeze, you know, how to
Mhm.
press triggers, how to look at sites, and all these things. But that was a really practical class that I think would have gone. You know, nobody would have signed up and driven, you know, all the way across the country to be in it, but they should have. It was a great class.
Mhm. Yeah. Frankly, I kind of wish I wasn't teaching as many blocks as what I taught over the weekend, which was all of them. um, because I was really intrigued by Gary and Rob's course and wanted to slip in there and catch a piece of that if I had had the option. Because I thought it was the concept of it I thought was really amazing. And I mean, what it was is they basically uh, walked you through or stepped you through what the aftermath of an actual incident would be like if you were involved in a self-defense shooting. And these are guys that have not only been a part of shootings and have not only investigated shootings, but now for CCW Safe are part of their their emergency incident response team. I don't remember exactly the name that they have for their team. They are uh, understand that every time there's an incident that takes place within CCW Safe, there's a core group of individuals that are all immediately notified. And as soon as details become available, these guys are getting that information. And in fact, just before the conference kicked off, they had a member involved in a shooting. I don't remember exactly where it was, but I mean, this is what they do is provide self defense legal. Representation and coverage to their members that are involved in these types of incidents. And here's like two of the most qualified dudes that can speak to you about what the aftermath of a shooting would be like,
Hmm.
what you need to know, what you need to understand, what you need to prepare for, what you need to be prepared to say, not say, who you need to call, what the police are going to be looking at, investigators are going to be looking at, what they're going to ask you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there's a fascinating concept of a basically a 4 hour course block of information and I wish, frankly, more people had the opportunity to attend that over the weekend at the Guardian Conference this year. And I hope that it's something they will refine and do again next year, and that more people will be excited about attending. So this actually brings up an interesting kind of segue, if you will, in terms of like when we talk about takeaways and lessons learned from this year's or this most recent conference. This is something I would say for those that are considering attending in future years is don't don't necessarily plan on attending the Guardian conference with the intent that you're going to do all shooting classes,
Hmm.
which I know doesn't sound very sexy. You know, like you think I'm going to go 3 day. I'm going to travel to like we had people coming from all over the country, California, Montana, Michigan. I think there was somebody there from New York. Um, all over the place, right? People coming in to attend 3 days of training, and you think, man, if I'm going to travel, 3 days or travel, maybe your travel takes 3 days. I don't know, but you're going to travel far away to this place for 3 days of training, spending all this money to do it, and taking time away from work and family and whatever else, right? You, a lot of us want to do the fun, cool, sexy thing of spending the 3 days shooting. Um, I would strongly recommend that people, as they fill it, because this is how we handle it at our event. Uh, in the weeks or months leading up to the event, you're going to get a survey. Once classes are finalized, which classes are going to be available on the schedule, taught by which instructors, a survey will go out to all attendees saying, "Here, rank basically the classes you want in the priority order that you desire. And to the best of our ability, we will put you in those desired classes." I strongly recommend that you don't make those all shooting classes. I strongly recommend that for your sake, that you look at the full lineup of courses, look at the descriptions, and they're listed as whether they're going to be live fire or more of a seminar type uh, based course. Look at the stuff that you think you need and that you need to understand. And I know that can be hard. You might think, oh, I already feel pretty confident in my ability to handle the aftermath of a shooting. Well, do you? Or have you ever had the opportunity to be taught directly face to face by two dudes that are probably some of the most experienced and qualified people to teach you what the aftermath of a shooting would be like? Like, that's a great I wish I could have been in that block. I wish I could have been in some of Todd Fosse's blocks. I wish I could have sat in with Andrew Branca for some of his legal stuff. Um, let's see. I'm trying to think. There was another great, more of a seminar type course. Oh, Melody Lauer did one on. What'd she call that? Um, I want to make sure I don't, butcher this. Let's see. I'll tell you right here. I've got it. Um, as soon as I scroll down the page, she did one called "The Next Step Beyond Shooting: Decision Making." You read the description on this. The ability to think and problem solve during a real world event is a crucial and often overlooked self defense skill. This block of instruction will introduce students to the necessity of real world decision making through zero impact guided scenarios. I, that sounded fascinating to me, and I wish I could have attended it. So, I guess what I'm saying here to wrap this little segment off is don't just think that you're going to come here and spend 3 days shooting, because there's a lot of other things I think that we all can benefit from and learn. Oh, heck, Chuck Haggard had, of course, like last year, had an OC spray class, a managing unknown contacts class. And I think a lot of people see that and don't even understand what that means, managing unknown contacts. And it's, how do you handle the interpersonal human problem of encountering people you don't know, unknown contacts? How do you handle that? How do you judge what their intents are? How do you de-escalate a situation? What are some of the cues, verbal and nonverbal cues, to look for to help discern what's going on here, and what the decision is that you should be making? Like, so many great seminar based courses at the Guardian Conference this year. It's not all just about the shooting, guys. There's a hardware and a software problem that we need to be solving for all of us. It's not all just about the shooting, although shooting is a great part and it's a fun part, and it's something I'm super passionate about, and that's the thing that I like to teach the most of, or at least it's certainly the thing I'm most qualified to teach, probably. But I just want to give that bit of advice, and not only for the learning side of this, but also, and we got feedback from from an attendee that said that they didn't get signed up for all the shooting classes that they wanted, and they were initially a little bit disappointed by that, but they were actually really glad that one of their courses they got put in was a seminar course. I don't remember what day, but they were thankful for it because they didn't realize that the 3 days of being on a hot range, how much that was going to suck out of them, energy wise
Mm-hmm.
and physically, and that it was good for them to have that break to sit down in a seminar based course, and take a little bit of a break from the heat and the sun, which it was hot this year at the conference again, like last year.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you know what else? The caliber of instructors, it I don't, if for attendees who've been there or have taken classes from some instructors that know how to, they're not just there to teach you how to look at your sights and hit the target, right? Like, they're not that. That's a byproduct of them building you up, in a way to succeed. And I think that's the mark, of a real good instructor. And last year, Sam Middlebrook, he had COVID and was sick and couldn't make it, and I filled in and taught for him, and that was great. And this year, I had more time because I wasn't teaching, I was just RSOing, and so I got to go down and see different instructors teaching. And I will tell you, there are a few guys in, Sam Middlebrook's one of those instructors that, he he knows how to build you up and get you to perform um, at your best, and not just marksmanship wise, but as a human. And I think the interactions I saw him have with some students were genuine. He's a caring and compassionate dude. Um, and I know David, one of the dudes that works for us, um, sat through his class and said, it changed him. Like, he not as a shooter or anything, but as a person. And he's a solid Christian, and he's an awesome dude. And I didn't get a chance to really uh, hang out with him much, but I got some time with him to just talk, and it was a pleasure. And so I'm just saying, I guess what I'm trying to say is, going to an event like this is different than attending a training class, because you interact with so many different instructors in different ways that you might not necessarily be able to at a training course, where they're going all day, and by the end of the day you're burned out, and you're eating lunch with people, and I just think that it's a unique experience that, if you haven't gone to a conference like this, or a training event where you're doing different blocks and things, it's a different experience, and I think you'll grow in ways that you might not necessarily, in just a traditional class.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. No, I appreciate you sharing that. And there was many wonderful, or much wonderful feedback that came back with respect to Sam Middlebrook's class, and all of our instructors, frankly, like you just said. And there's a diverse, a wide diversity of instructors in terms of styles and what is
Hmm.
taught and how it's taught across the board, and you know that's somewhat intentional. I mean, we vet and really think pretty deeply about who we are going to allow come and teach at our event, and I mean they've all been vetted, and by that one of the most important things is we want to know that they're good instructors, that they can
Hmm.
teach, and that and that what they teach is worthwhile as well too. Um, Now let's talk about some other diversity. In fact, some conference statistics from this year's event. This year we had attendees from 25 different states. I actually don't remember how that compares to last year, but that's half of the nation. So that's pretty impressive. I mean, one of the things that's important about the Guardian Conference location is that this is very intentional, is that it's in a kind of the center of the country, with the hope that it's about as fair as we can make it for everybody across the country. I mean, if this was more of a West Coast deal, then it would be really difficult for people on the East Coast to travel, and vice versa if it was, flip flop from that. Sometimes people I think of, like when I tell my local friends and family, like we're doing a training conference and it's in Oklahoma instead of Colorado where we're based, that's kind of a surprise to them. And not only that, there's other reasons for that, but one of the big reasons is Oklahoma is a lot more centrally located than Colorado is. Um, so anyway, we had attendees come in from 25 different states from across the country. Texas was the most represented state with 13 attendees, although Arkansas was the most represented by percentage of population. And
Hmm.
that's kind of an interesting way of looking at that. A gentleman from Whitefish, Montana, had the longest trip of 1,587 miles. I believe that's by, if you had to drive it. 25% of attendees attended the previous year. And here was a statistic that we were really excited about. This year, we had 19% of attendees were women. So 1 in 5 were women. I do believe that was up from last year, I believe. So really, really cool to see. And in fact, I know there was one group of ladies from Texas in particular that said they were bringing all of their lady friends next year. And so we look forward to seeing them back and seeing them with some of their friends, and you know, they were a wonderful group of ladies, and it seemed like they really had a great time and learned a lot over the course of the weekend. So I think that's important to recognize. I mean, we don't. I mean, this year we had on our instructor staff one female instructor. On our assistant instructor staff, we had one female instructor. So some might look at that and think, well, there's not much equity in terms of the instructor lineup in terms of male and female perspectives being represented. But when we look at instructors and curriculum that we want taught, it is more based around the curriculum and than it is, well, we need a certain number of instructors that represent certain demographics. But we were glad to see more diversity both in the instructor staff and in the attendees this year. And regardless if you were a man or a woman, it seemed that all learned a lot and had a great time. And that, again, is the focus.
Yeah, and you know what else was cool? Sorry, I'll let you go, and then
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
What else was cool? Speaking of like that, different statistics, I noticed there were a lot of husband-wife combinations. Now, again, I wasn't as in tune last year with some of these things because I was teaching and we were doing a lot more, but I had the ability to observe that there were several husband-wife combinations. There was even a husband-wife and daughter there. And I think a couple father-daughter couples there. Yep. And so it's cool because it was sort of like a destination where you could go as a family, you get food, you're eating together, you're not it's not like super high intense where you're going all day. You can interact. And I think not to beat the horse, too much about it being a unique conference, but in that way, I mean, if you feel comfortable bringing your wife or your daughter to an event, it's a good event, right? Like there's nothing wrong with going to a class where, it's dudes and, they're
tactical beards,
right? That's
yours.
There's nothing wrong with that, but the environment is conducive to a family, to training and learning, and then sitting down and eating with people, and then training, and then going back to the hotel, and it's in a nice area, and I think that that warmed my heart seeing so many couples. I don't know, it just kind of touches me because I see a lot of, we want to be protectors and things like that. But, when I see a husband and wife come together and train and do that thing, I know, that's a pretty solid couple there that yeah. Are doing things together. So that was fun to see.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. That was fun to see. I think we had a few couples last year, and I know at least two father and son couples last year. And this year, yeah, there was a couple of the, father-daughter kind of thing, and that was cool to see. In fact, a couple of those daughters were really pretty good shooters, perhaps even better than their dads, that may have been, originally who taught them. No offense to the dads, but I hope that they're proud of, seeing the growth their daughters have had and made as shooters and self-defenders. And so it was really cool. I mean, we had a great group of attendees this year, and I had a lot of fun interacting with everybody that I met. I think that's one thing that's kind of fun about this conference is that everyone it is a relaxed atmosphere, in the right sort of way, that there's not a lot of egos, there's not a lot of attitudes from really anybody, instructors, staff, or attendees, and everyone's just relaxed and gets, and wonderful, nice conversations that happen between people over meals, etc. And everyone's just enjoying the weekend, having great time training and learning together. So we're going to kind of we're getting close to wrapping this up here for this particular episode, but I want to touch on a couple of things as we look forward to next year. Just so you know, next year's event is set in the calendar and is planned as far as that's concerned. I do want to mention that those dates are September 15th, 16th, and 17th, 2023. So the 15th to the 17th in September 2023 in Oklahoma City. Again, same facility, Oklahoma City Gun Club. Um, Again, we like that pretty central in the country location. Uh, some people have asked, is it going to move around? That's always a possibility down the road, but right now this is where it's at. There's a lot that goes into an event like this. There's a lot logistically that needs to be present as far as the facility is concerned to be able to support an event like this. I mean, not only do we need the space in terms of the number of shooting bays or berms that are available. We need space for some of the seminar or lecture based courses that they can take place. We want it to be close to a major airport, which Oklahoma City Will Rogers Airport's not like the biggest thing, biggest one in the world, but it's a major airport, and it's generally pretty affordable to fly in and out of there. Um, Needs to be close to hotels and other amenities, which this location certainly is. Although we did get a one survey back from an attendee that's for whatever reason rated the proximity to hotels and amenities as not being that great, which I don't know if that was a mistake or if they legit felt that way. But I don't know about you, Matthew, but there's not a lot of like large world class range facilities that are like 15 minutes away from half a dozen hotels and a
Yeah.
Walmart and a grocery store and Sam's Club and restaurants and
Yeah.
and a level 3 trauma center and all. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
th-
It,
this this is a pretty dang good facility in terms of location to all those types of amenities.
yeah.
Um, but the other thing is a lot of folks were like, "Hey, can we do it? When it's not quite so hot?" Just know that historical averages for Oklahoma City that time of year are not. We've had 2 years where it's been about 10 plus degrees, maybe closer to like 13 degrees warmer than what historical averages suggest. Um, we also have to work with the actual range facility and when they're actually available to be able to allow us to do this large scale event. So there's a lot of things we have to put into account in terms of when and where the Guardian Conference is held. And after weighing everything, uh, basically the same weekend in September in 2023 is when it's going to be. So we're going to cross fingers and hope and pray that we don't get 10 to 13 degree above average temperatures for the third year in a row. Hopefully it'll be a little bit more moderate, a little bit more temperate. And next year's going to be a great time. Tickets are already available to purchase, and I'd recommend getting in sooner rather than later. Super early bird pricing in effect right now. So you can go to guardianconference.com and see all the conference information right there. I believe we're working on the same group of hotels for group rate, which the hotels have worked out pretty well for most everybody. Uh, Again, located in a nice proximity to the range, about 15 minutes away, and yeah, pretty much everything as usual because it's kind of hard to mess with almost near perfection. I mean, we always learn and grow from these things and try to do better the next year. But there's some things it's like, wow, this is working out. So the range facility itself is working out so well. Uh, the hotels and everything are working out so well. It's like we're not going to try to upset that particular part of the formula, but we'll try to improve everything else where we can. And I'm excited. We'll have like I said, some new and some different next year,
Yeah.
in more ways than one. So stand by for that as we get more of the schedule locked down, more of the instructor cadre locked down, courses locked down. All of that will be coming in here in coming months. We do anticipate getting that information out a lot sooner than what happened this year. Just so you know there. So You'll know a little bit better who's teaching and what is being taught and what the schedule is a lot sooner than what we were able to get put together this year.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
any other observations or thoughts you want to throw out there before we wrap this one up?
The last thing I'll say is if you are even considering going, I highly recommend you sign up for Guardian Nation. It's not a plug. I'm not like trying to sell. I'm just saying I was shocked because if you save $250 on the ticket, if you're a member, if you're a Guardian Nation member on the super early bird pricing. So it's, I mean, I don't know. I'm looking at it and saying I can't. And you get an awesome the dinner the first
Yeah,
night
you get
is
to be a part of the VIP dinner.
yeah, and that, I mean, that's worth it. So I'm just saying that's my 2 cents. Like sign up for Guardian Nation and save some bucks on the ticket if you're planning on going for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yep, and there's information right on the guardianconference.com site too, as far as I think even as you click the button get tickets, it'll prompt you and say, hey, if you're a Guardian Nation member, this is what you'll pay, and here's some other reasons why you want to maybe consider being a member of Guardian Nation before you purchase those tickets. Uh, yeah, so good thoughts there, Matthew. Again, folks, we had a great time this year. Eh, I'll tell you, I mean, 3 days for me teaching. I taught 4 blocks of my pistol intelligence curriculum and 2 blocks of an intro to competitive shooting course. I called it competitive shooting primer. Um, all of those were just awesome course blocks. Mostly because of the students that were there, because I could tell everyone that was there cared and wanted to be there and was willing and able to learn, and that makes such a difference. And that's one of the best things about this event is the quality of people that attend, and it makes it so easy as an instructor to teach those blocks. um, I mean, I love teaching, period, and I'm not saying anything disparaging at all about any of the classes I've taught at any other time, but it is just such a pleasure to show up and teach at this event. And so I look forward to doing it again. And maybe I'll roll out some different courses myself next year. I don't know. Probably still have some pistol intelligence. Probably still do the intro to competitive shooting because that seems to be pretty popular as well. And people had a great time. I set up an actual competition stage, a USBSA style stage, and everybody learns, how to get started in competitive shooting and some of the rules and scoring that's involved, and then we actually shoot the stage a couple of times and learn learn while doing that. And I know several students mentioned to me that it was a highlight of the weekend for them. So um, that is an honor to me, and a humbling honor to be a part of some people's first foray into competitive shooting, which is a wonderful thing. Even though most of the stuff at our event is more of a defensive focus, competitive shooting has a lot of benefits as well. And plus, it's just dang fun. And I love being a part of introducing people to that whole world. So we had a great time. The stage that I set up was fun. A bunch of people, shot it. Matt Little and I and AJ Zito even competed on 2 of the days, kind of against each other, just for fun and for kicks and giggles. And had some people watching and I guess cheering. I don't know if they're probably laughing at us, not cheering us on. In the moment, I felt like they were cheering us on, but they were probably just laughing at us. Anyway, it was great fun. It was a great weekend, great event. Thank you to Jacob for his administrative prowess to organize a lot of things behind the scenes, especially leading up to the event. Thank you to our amazing staff. We have an amazing team of folks that helped out this year and last year. We just had more of them this year, and that was a wonderful blessing. Thank you to our assistant instructor staff. We had Rob Beckman there helping again for the second year. We had Jamie Meyer, who is a local and actually a board member of the Oklahoma City Gun Club, and she spent the whole weekend with us helping out, teaching at classes. Her help was absolutely appreciated. I know we're missing somebody else that was kind of there assisting. Of course, you were part of that as well, Matt. And yeah, thank you everybody for making it just a wonderful event.
Yeah. And all the attendees, man, fantastic group of people, lots of great conversations I've had. So those people you're listening, thank you for spending time talking to me.
Yeah. So we look forward to year 3, the 3rd annual Guardian Conference 2023. We'll see you there in September 15th to the 17th. Again, more information at guardianconference.com. Again, shout out to our sponsors of today's episode, our sponsor of the podcast, as well as title sponsor of the conference, that being CCW Safe. Please consider joining CCW Safe today. Go to ccwsafe.com. Also, Gunfighter Gun Oil, which you can find at gunfighteroil.com. And Mickey is having his own event going on this coming weekend, actually in the Nashville area, which he calls S12, his S12 event. So our thoughts and prayers and well wishes to him and his team and staff, and also our own Jacob Paulson and John Paul that are attending there and representing our brands as part of that event this weekend. So hope they have a great time. Guys, until next time, take care, be safe. A reminder to train right, train often, and train safe so you can fight hard, fight fast, and fight true. Take care.